My name is Stefania Moore, and I was 28 years old when my life unraveled 2 weeks before my wedding. At the time, I thought I had everything figured out: a stable career as a project manager, a fiance I adored, and a future that finally felt safe. I met Andrew Carter back in college. He was studying marketing, all charm and easy laughter, with that type of energy that made everyone want to be around him. I was quieter, the type to take notes for both of us and plan 3 steps ahead while he improvised life. Somehow it worked. After graduation, when his first job fell apart because the company downsized, I picked up extra shifts at work to cover rent. I told myself that's what love looked like: partnership, sacrifice, loyalty. When Andrew proposed 2 years later, it was on a quiet hike near a lake we used to visit during finals week. There was no flash mob, no champagne bottle, just us, the sound of water and his trembling hands. I said yes before he even finished asking. Planning the wedding became my second job. The venue, the florist, the live band, he wanted it to feel grand but personal. I paid for most of it from the savings I'd built after years of budgeting every paycheck. He promised to contribute once his next project paid off. I believed him, I always did. Andrew's new job at a small advertising agency seemed to excite him at first, but soon the late nights started: client dinners, team drinks, networking events. Sometimes he'd stumble home after midnight, smelling like whiskey and laughter that wasn't mine. I tried not to nag. I'd be waiting on the couch, half asleep, pretending I hadn't been scrolling through social media, staring at pictures of him tagged in photos with colleagues, women in sparkly dresses, drinks in hand, captions that said things like, "Life's too short for routine." He'd kiss my forehead, mutter something like, "You worry too much, Stefania," and head straight to the shower. I told myself he was just stressed. Every couple had rough patches before a wedding. That's what everyone said. But somewhere deep down, the silence between us started to feel louder than our conversations. One night, while we were having dinner, Andrew joked, "You know, marriage is basically a full-time job. Are you ready to be my boss for life?" He laughed, but his eyes darted down at his phone mid-sentence. He wasn't waiting for my answer. He was waiting for a message. I smiled, pretending not to notice, pretending that the man in front of me was still the one who used to leave notes in my lunchbox saying, "You make my chaos make sense." The week before the wedding, his best friend Travis started calling constantly. They'd known each other since college, loud, impulsive, always planning parties. Travis was in charge of the bachelor party. I remember asking, "So what exactly are you guys doing?" Andrew smirked. "Relax. Dinner, a few drinks, maybe some poker. Nothing wild." Travis and nothing wild don't belong in the same sentence, I teased. He leaned in, kissed my forehead, and said, "Stefania, it's tradition. Don't overthink it." Tradition. Funny how that word can mean so many different things depending on who's using it. The night of the party, I stayed home, cooked dinner for one, tried not to check my phone every 10 minutes. He texted once, "Love you, miss you already," with a heart emoji. I smiled at the screen and told myself that was enough. By midnight, the apartment felt too quiet. I turned on an old TV show, let it play until I fell asleep on the couch. When my phone rang the next morning, I thought it was Andrew, but it wasn't. The name flashing on the screen was Travis. I hesitated before answering. His tone was casual, too cheerful for someone nursing a hangover. "Hey, Stefania," he laughed. "Crazy night last night, huh?" I frowned. "How's Andrew still asleep?" "Oh, yeah. He's probably dead to the world right now," Travis said. "Man, that guy had fun." Something cold spread through my stomach. "Fun," I echoed. "Yeah, you know. We had this dancer show up, total knockout, and things got a little, heated. But it's a bachelor party. Don't freak out. Okay, boys will be boys." For a moment, I didn't understand the words. My mind went blank, like my brain refused to translate them. "What do you mean, heated?" Travis chuckled nervously. "Nothing crazy. I mean, sure, a lap dance, a few shots, maybe a little more. But come on, it's not like he's marrying the dancer. Just a final night of freedom, right?" My throat felt dry. "Did you just say more?" Relaxed, Stephania. "Andrew said you'd understand. Don't make a big deal out of it." Understand. I sat there gripping the phone, feeling my pulse pounding in my ears. Somewhere in the distance, a neighbor's dog barked. Cars passed by. The sun rose, but everything in my world froze. Travis was still talking something about how I should let the guy breathe before marriage. I hung up mid-sentence. For 10 minutes, I just sat there staring at the floor. The coffee on my table had gone cold, untouched. When Andrew finally came home around noon, he looked exhausted, hair messy, eyes bloodshot, still in the same shirt from last night. He smiled when he saw me. "Morning, fiancé," he said, kissing the air near my cheek. "You look serious. What's wrong?" I forced a breath. Travis called. His smile faltered. "Oh, what did that idiot say?" I kept my voice even. "He told me you hooked up with the dancer." Andrew blinked, like he was calculating his answer. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. "Come on, Stefania. It's not what it sounds like." "Then what is it?" "It was a joke, a stupid party game. Everyone was drunk. You really think I care about some random woman? It's tradition. Don't overreact." He said it so easily, like the word overreact was supposed to make me calm down. But my voice didn't rise, it just got quieter. "You slept with her." He sighed, annoyed, like I was interrupting his nap. "It didn't mean anything, okay? I just got caught up in the moment. You know how these things go." I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man I'd built my future around, and realized I didn't recognize him anymore. He rubbed the back of his neck. "You've had your fun before, right? It's no different. Just one last night of freedom." My hands trembled, but I stayed still. "Freedom," I repeated. "From what, Andrew?" "From me." He didn't answer. He just shrugged. I turned away, walked to the window, and stared at the street below. Cars passed by. People went on with their lives. Then I said the words that came before everything changed. "Okay, I hear you." He smiled, relieved. "Good, so we're fine." I turned back to him, my voice calm but final. "No, Andrew, we're not." The room went quiet. His smirk faded, confusion clouding his face. "Wait, what are you—" I didn't answer. I just walked past him toward the bedroom. My suitcase was under the bed. I pulled it out. And that's when I knew the wedding was over, before it even began. I don't remember crying. I just remember the stillness, that strange, hollow kind of silence that follows the moment your world shifts. Andrew stood there blinking at the suitcase like he couldn't quite process what was happening. "Stefania." "You're being ridiculous," he said finally, voice laced with disbelief. "It's not like I fell in love with her. It was just a stupid party." "Just a party," I repeated softly, unzipping the case. "Do you even hear yourself?" He groaned, dragging a hand through his hair. "You're making this into a movie scene." "God, Stefania. Everyone does this kind of stuff. It doesn't mean anything. We're 2 weeks away from our wedding. Don't throw that away because of what I cut in my voice, trembling now. Because of you." He flinched at that, just barely. I started packing without another word, work clothes first, then my sketchbook, the half-empty perfume bottle he'd once said smelled like home. My hands shook, but every folded piece of clothing made my decision feel more solid. Andrew paced the room. "Look, I messed up, okay? But it's not like I was trying to hurt you. It's just what happens at bachelor parties," Travis said. I stopped him cold. "Don't you dare blame Travis. You were the one who made the choice." His mouth opened, then closed again. He exhaled, annoyed. "You're really going to destroy everything over one mistake." I zipped the suitcase shut. "You already did." For the first time, he looked scared. Not guilty, just scared of what losing me might look like. He reached for my arm, his voice dropping to that soft, persuasive tone he used whenever he wanted to win an argument. "Hey, we've been through worse, right? You supported me when I lost my job, when things got rough. Don't turn cold now." I froze. That was the problem. I'd always been the one holding everything together, the one fixing, forgiving, waiting. "Andrew," I said quietly, "you don't get to cheat on me and then ask me to comfort you." His jaw tightened. The charm melted away, replaced with defensiveness. "You think you're perfect. You've never made mistakes." "Not this kind," I said, staring him down. "Not the kind that turns love into humiliation." We stood there in silence. He looked at me like he was searching for the woman who'd once believed he could do no wrong. But that version of me had vanished sometime between the words, "It was just a party," and "Don't overreact." After a long pause, he muttered, "Fine. Go. If you want to ruin our lives over something meaningless, be my guest." He left, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed through the apartment like a gunshot. That night, I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by wedding binders, floral catalogs, menu options, payment receipts. I stared at the numbers, the deposits, the list of non-refundable notes I'd written myself. I opened my laptop and started sending emails. Venue canceled, catering canceled, band canceled, florist canceled. Every click felt like tearing off another piece of my old life. When my phone buzzed again, I didn't want to look, but I did. Andrew. "Come on, Stefania. Stop being dramatic. Let's just talk." Then another. "Andrew." You're not really leaving, are you? And finally, Andrew, you're overreacting. You'll regret this. I didn't respond. I went to the bedroom, opened the closet, and saw his tuxedo still hanging there, tags untouched. Next to it, my wedding dress in its plastic bag. White, untouched, pointless now. I sat on the bed for a long time, watching the moonlight through the blinds. I thought about the first time we met the night in the campus library, when he offered to carry my books, the way he'd made me laugh so easily. Back then, he'd said, "You make everything feel less complicated." Maybe that was the problem. I'd made everything too easy for him. At 3 a.m., I finally texted my parents. "The wedding's off. I'll explain tomorrow." My mom called instantly, her voice trembling. "Sweetheart, what happened? Are you okay?" I swallowed hard. He cheated. There was a pause, the kind of silence that only a mother's heartbreak can fill. "Oh, Stefania," she whispered. "Do you want us to come get you?" "No," I said. "I just need to handle this." And I did. The next morning, I started boxing up everything that was ours. Framed photos, the mugs we bought together on that road trip, the stupid ceramic cat he insisted we name Lucky. When I found the wedding invitations, all 200 of them, I sat down on the floor and tore each one in half. Halfway through, Andrew came back. He looked worse than yesterday, unshaven eyes, bloodshot, smelling like stale liquor. "Are you seriously still doing this?" he snapped. "I told you," I said evenly. "It's over." He threw up his hands. "You're unbelievable. You'd rather start over than forgive me." "What kind of person does that?" "The kind who's finally learned her worth," I said. He laughed bitterly. "Good luck finding someone who loves you like I did." I paused, staring at him. "You didn't love me, Andrew. You loved the version of me who tolerated your mistakes." He stared speechless. Then quietly I picked up the last torn invitation and dropped it into the box. I'm done. That night I slept for the first time in days deeply without dreams. In the morning I called my boss. "About that transfer to our Denver branch," I said. "Is the offer still open?" By the end of the week, my apartment was half empty, and my future for the first time was mine alone. When I closed the door for the last time, I whispered to the empty room, "You wanted freedom, Andrew. Now you've got it." Leaving wasn't as dramatic as people imagine. There were no screaming matches, no tears in the rain, no pleading apologies, just the quiet rhythm of tape on cardboard boxes and the echo of footsteps in an almost empty apartment. I didn't post anything online, didn't call friends for sympathy. I just left. Andrew texted twice more that day. "Andrew, you're making a mistake, Andrew. You'll realize it when it's too late." I never replied. My parents drove up that weekend to help me pack. My mom brought sandwiches in an awkward silence. My dad didn't say much, just lifted boxes and patted my shoulder once in a while. When they saw the dress bag hanging untouched, Mom's eyes filled with tears. "You sure about this?" she asked softly. I nodded. "If I walk down that aisle, it'll be the biggest lie of my life." She didn't argue, just hugged me tighter. Andrew's mother, on the other hand, called me that night. I could tell from her clipped tone that Andrew had already spun the story his way. "Stefania," she began, "you young people throw things away so easily. Boys will be boys. It was just one night. Don't destroy your future over something so small." Something inside me snapped at that, not anger exactly, but a deep, clean realization. "No," I said quietly. "He destroyed our future when he decided I didn't matter." She scoffed. "You'll regret this. Maybe, but not as much as I'd regret staying." I ended the call. Monday morning, I drove to the city hall to officially cancel the marriage license. The clerk gave me a sympathetic look, the kind you give someone who's trying not to cry in public. "Cold feet?" she asked kindly. I almost laughed. More like warm lies. By Tuesday, I'd signed the paperwork to transfer to my company's Denver branch. New city, new start. I spent the next few days selling furniture, closing my lease, deleting the shared Spotify playlists, unsubscribing from every wedding vendor newsletter that still said, "Congratulations, bride-to-be." When I called the venue, the woman on the line sighed when I said the date. "Oh, the Carter Moore wedding," she said. "You're canceling." "Yes." "I'm sorry, dear. The deposit is non-refundable." "It's okay," I said. "Consider it tuition. I just learned a very expensive lesson." $7,000 vanished in minutes, but it still felt like freedom. On the day I moved, Andrew showed up. I was carrying the last box to the car when I saw him standing by the parking lot, hands shoved into his pockets, sunglasses hiding the guilt in his eyes. "Stefania," he said, voice low, "we need to talk." I closed the trunk. "No, Andrew. You need to talk. I already listened once." He sighed. "I get it. I messed up. But we can still fix this. Everyone deserves a second chance." "Second chances are for accidents," I said, not choices. His jaw tensed. You're really just walking away, yes. He took a step closer, lowering his voice, like we were in one of those movie scenes where the hero wins her back. You love me. I smiled faintly. I loved who you were supposed to be. He blinked, confusion clouding his face, like the idea of being held accountable had never crossed his mind. When I got in the car, he slammed his hand against the roof. You'll regret this, he shouted. I rolled down the window halfway. Maybe, but at least I'll regret it on my own terms. Then I drove off. The road stretched ahead, long, silent, and terrifying. I stopped halfway at a gas station, leaned against the car, and cried. Not for him, for the years I'd spent trying to be someone worth staying for. It was a strange mix of grief and relief, like tearing off a bandage that had already fused to the skin. By the time I reached Denver that evening, the city lights flickered like tiny promises. My new apartment was small, with boxes still sealed, and no furniture except a mattress and a coffee table. It was perfect. That first night, I sat on the floor with takeout noodles and my laptop open to work emails. The silence was heavy, but peaceful. Somewhere in the distance, fireworks popped over the skyline, some celebration I wasn't part of. I whispered to myself, you did it. You left. For the first time in months, I fell asleep without replaying arguments in my head. Weeks passed quickly. Work became my anchor. I threw myself into projects, late nights, and morning coffee routines. My new coworkers were kind but didn't pry. On weekends, I explored hiking trails and local cafes. Sometimes sketching people, I'd see couples, families, strangers who didn't know the version of me that had once planned a wedding, down to the napkin colors. I missed love, but not his love. Because his love had conditions. His love came with rules I didn't agree to. One night, while watching the sunset from my apartment balcony, I thought about him again. About how he'd laughed when I asked if it was true. About how he'd used the word tradition to excuse betrayal. And I realized something. He didn't cheat because he was drunk. He cheated because he thought he could. 3 months later, I got a message from an old mutual friend. Hey, I thought you should know Andrew's been having a rough time. Lost his job. Some girl he was seeing scammed him. Long story. I stared at the text for a while, then typed back. I'm sorry to hear that. And that was it. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want them. Because sometimes karma doesn't need an audience. It just needs time. That night, I opened a fresh notebook and wrote on the first page, She left quietly, but the silence screamed louder than any goodbye. I closed the cover, smiled, and went to sleep. For the first time, I wasn't the woman waiting for closure. I was the closure. Denver didn't feel like home at first. It felt like a waiting room, quiet, sterile, temporary. But then one morning, as I walked to work, I realized something strange. I'd gone an entire week without thinking about Andrew. Not once. Healing, it turned out, didn't arrive in a grand moment of closure. It showed up quietly in small, ordinary victories. Drinking coffee without checking my phone, sleeping through the night, laughing at a joke without forcing it. But just when peace started to settle in, karma sent me a story. It started with a voicemail from Nina, one of Andrew's old coworkers. Hey, Stefania, she said hesitantly. I don't want to stir things up, but you should know. Andrew's been in some trouble. I didn't call back right away. I wasn't sure I cared. But curiosity, as always, is a stubborn thing. So that night, I listened to the message again. Apparently, Andrew's wild night with the dancer hadn't been just one night. Her name was Jade. And she wasn't just a dancer, she was a professional grifter with a talent for charming desperate men. After our breakup, Andrew started seeing her secretly, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of ego. Either way, it didn't last long before she turned her con into a routine. She told him stories, sick parents, debt collectors, a chance to start a business together. He gave her money, first hundreds, then thousands. By the time he realized it was a scam, she'd vanished along with $8,000 of his savings. The irony hit me like a quiet thunderclap. The man who said his mistake didn't mean anything had just paid for it in full. A week later, another update came through the grapevine. Andrew's job at the ad agency had gone south. His performance tanked, late arrivals, missed deadlines, a reputation for being distracted. And Travis, the one who called me that morning after the bachelor party, he'd been dumped too. His girlfriend overheard him bragging about the party, laughing about how Andrew's girl totally overreacted. She'd packed her bags and left the same night. The universe, I realized, has a sense of humor. It might not be fast, but it's always thorough. Meanwhile, my life was quietly rebuilding itself. I'd earned a promotion, project lead, on a regional rollout. My boss said he admired my calm under pressure. He didn't know that surviving emotional warfare makes deadlines feel like child's play. I started hiking again, long solo trails, where I could hear my thoughts instead of drowning in them. The air in Denver was sharper, cleaner. Every step away from my old life felt like reclaiming oxygen. One Sunday, I met a group of hikers who invited me to join their weekend trips. That's how I met Caleb, a quiet architect with an easy laugh and none of Andrew's swagger. We became friends first. No flirting, no pressure, just long conversations about work music and the strange ways people heal. He never asked about my past, and that's how I knew he was safe. One evening, after a long day at work, I sat on my balcony sipping tea, scrolling mindlessly when a new message appeared from an unknown number. Unknown. Hey, it's Andrew. I heard you moved. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a full minute before locking my phone. No response. The next day, another message. Andrew Jade scammed me. I lost my job. I need someone to talk to. I set the phone down, walked to the window, and watched the sunset. For once, the sight didn't make me nostalgic. Because I realized Andrew was still the same. He only called when he was falling apart. He didn't miss me. He missed how I held him together. Over the next few days, his messages multiplied. Andrew. Please, Stephania, you're the only person who ever understood me. Andrew. You can't just erase what we had. Andrew. I messed up, but don't you still care, even a little? No, I didn't. I deleted them all. But it didn't stop there. He called once, his voice hoarse, desperate. Stephania, please, just hear me out. Everything's gone wrong since you left. My life's a mess. I didn't say a word. Silence, I'd learned, is the most powerful language in the world. After a few seconds, he whispered, You're really not going to say anything, I finally answered. I already did, Andrew. You just weren't listening. And I hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I missed him, but because I realized something deeper. Forgiveness wasn't about letting him back in. It was about freeing myself from the version of me that waited for him to change. I lay awake thinking about the girl who stayed quiet when he joked about freedom. The girl who thought loyalty would be enough to make someone love her right. She deserved peace, so I gave it to her. Months later, a mutual friend told me that Andrew had left town. He said he needed a fresh start, they texted. Somewhere no one knows what happened. I smiled when I read it. Because that's exactly what I did, except I didn't run to escape. I left to rebuild. There's a difference. One Saturday morning, Caleb and I hiked a new trail that overlooked the city. The wind was sharp, the sky cloudless. He looked at me and said, You seem lighter lately. I smiled. Maybe I finally stopped carrying someone else's weight. He didn't ask what I meant. He just nodded like he understood. As we reached the summit, I took a deep breath and whispered into the wind. You were right, Andrew. Everyone does get one last night of freedom. I just chose mine differently. And this one, this life, this calm was mine to keep. It had been almost a year since I'd left. Long enough for my hair to grow out, for my laughter to sound different, for the scars to fade into something softer, not gone, but no longer aching. Denver had become more than a city. It had become proof. Proof that I could rebuild from silence. Proof that I didn't need someone else to feel whole. So when Andrew's name flashed on my phone again one Thursday evening, I almost laughed. At first it was a text. Andrew, hey, I'm in Denver. Can we meet, please? Just one conversation. For a moment, I stared at the message. It was simple, almost polite, but I knew what it really meant. He wasn't here for closure. He was here for comfort. I didn't reply. A few days later, he called from an unknown number. This time I answered. Curiosity, not emotion. Stephania. His voice was low, shaky. Thank God you picked up. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I said nothing, waiting. I know you hate me, he went on, but I'm not that guy anymore. I've been through hell. I lost everything. My job, my savings, my friends. Jade ruined me. He paused, waiting for sympathy that never came. I'm clean now, he continued. No drinking, no parties. I've been thinking a lot about us, about how good we were. I need a second chance. Why, I asked quietly. He hesitated. Because we were supposed to be forever. I could almost hear the practiced sincerity in his voice, the same rhythm he used when he wanted something. Forever doesn't survive betrayal, I said simply. He sighed, frustrated. You can't still be angry. I'm not angry, I said. I'm indifferent, and that's worse. He went quiet. The silence stretched long enough to hear the hum of my refrigerator, the ticking clock on the wall. Please, he whispered finally. Just dinner. I just want to talk. No, I said. Click. He didn't give up. The next week, a bouquet arrived at my office, white lilies and a note. To the woman I never stopped loving. My coworker Hannah handed it to me with raised brows. Ooh, secret admirer. I forced a polite smile, more like a ghost that doesn't know it's dead. I threw the flowers out before lunch. Later that night, another message appeared. Andrew, you didn't have to throw them away. I just wanted to show you I still care. I typed and deleted a dozen responses before settling on none. Silence was my answer. 2 days later, the doorbell rang. When I looked through the peephole, I froze. Andrew, standing in the hallway holding a paper bag like a peace offering. His clothes were wrinkled eyes sunken that once effortless charm replaced by exhaustion. I opened the door just a crack. Stefania, he said softly, I brought coffee, like old times. I stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind me. You shouldn't be here. He gave a small laugh, the kind that used to melt my anger. You always say that before forgiving me. I met his gaze. You're mistaking politeness for forgiveness. The smile faltered. I just want to talk. About what? The party you swore meant nothing. The woman who drained your bank account. Or how I rebuilt my life without you. His jaw tightened. You think you're better than me now? No, I said calmly. Just better off. For a moment, his mask slipped his face, hardening into something defensive, almost angry. You're cold, he muttered. I was right about you. You don't know how to forgive. I took a slow breath, meeting his eyes steadily. You're wrong, I said. I forgave you a long time ago. I just don't owe you reconciliation. He blinked, thrown off balance. What does that even mean? It means I'm done explaining my piece to the person who broke it. He stared at me, breathing heavy, like he was trying to find the version of me that used to cry for him. But that version no longer existed. After a long pause, he whispered, Please, Stefania, I need you. I shook my head. No, Andrew, you need someone to fix you, and I retired from that job. He looked down, eyes glistening. For a second, I almost saw the boy I used to love, vulnerable, scared, lost. But then I remembered the woman he'd made me become. Without another word, I turned, opened the door, and stepped back inside. He stayed there for a few seconds, then finally muttered, You'll regret this. Maybe I said closing the door, but I'll regret it quietly. The latch clicked, and that was that. He texted a few more times that week, long rambling messages that swung between apologies and accusations. Andrew, you were my world. Andrew, you abandoned me. Andrew, I can't sleep. Are you happy now? Andrew, you always wanted control. Congrats, you have it. Each one I deleted without reading twice. I knew how this pattern worked. Guilt, pity, nostalgia. The same cycle I'd lived in for years. But not anymore. A month later, he stopped texting altogether. No calls, no flowers, no letters. For a while, I wondered if he'd finally moved on, or if karma had taken the wheel again. One night, as I was locking up my apartment, my neighbor, an older woman named Marjorie, mentioned casually, You know that guy who came around asking for you last month, the one with the sad eyes? Haven't seen him since. I smiled politely. That's probably for the best. She nodded. Good. You've got light in you now. Don't let anyone dim it again. I thanked her, went inside, and for the first time in a very long while felt something close to peace. Because I didn't need to know what happened to Andrew. Whatever lesson life had left for him wasn't mine to witness. The next morning I opened my balcony door to the soft glow of sunrise. Birds were chirping. The air smelled like rain, and for a moment everything was still. My phone buzzed a work email, not a message from the past. I smiled and whispered, Finally! Then I poured myself a cup of coffee for one and sat in the light. I didn't need closure anymore. I was the closure. It came on a Sunday morning, the kind of day meant for clean sheets, coffee, and peace. I woke up to sunlight spilling across my floor and the soft hum of the city below. For the first time in years, I felt steady, like the ground beneath me wasn't waiting to collapse. Then my phone buzzed, a name I hadn't seen in months. Andrew Carter. No call this time, just one long email. Subject line, please read this. For a moment, my chest tightened. Not from longing, not even anger, just that strange tug you feel when a ghost decides to speak one last time. I hesitated, then opened it. Stefania, you probably won't reply. I get that. You've always been better at moving on than I am. But I need to say this, even if it's just to an empty inbox. I've lost everything. Jade cleaned me out. My job let me go, and most of my friends stopped answering my calls. I've been staying with my cousin trying to piece things back together. It's pathetic, I know. I keep thinking about what I did, how easily I threw away something good, how I laughed when you cried. I was so sure you'd never leave, that you'd forgive me the way you always did. I was wrong. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, Stefania. You were my peace, and I turned you into a storm. If you never want to see me again, I understand. But if there's even one part of you that remembers what we had before I ruined it, please know I'd do anything to make it right. You once told me that love is about showing up when it's hardest. I didn't, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I hope you're happy, really happy, even if it's not with me. Andrew. I read it twice, slowly. Not because I missed him, but because I wanted to understand the version of me who once would have cried over this. She would have typed something kind, something forgiving, something like, I hope you're okay. But that woman was gone. I closed the email. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, but because silence was the answer he'd never learned to respect. Later that day, I met Caleb for brunch at a cafe downtown. He smiled when I arrived, that warm, quiet smile that never demanded anything from me. Rough morning, he asked. Just the past knocking, I said, sipping my coffee. He nodded knowingly. You didn't answer, did you? No, I said. Some doors aren't meant to be reopened. He grinned softly. Good, you deserve new ones. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't just escaped Andrew. I'd outgrown him. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, I took out my old wedding planner notebook, the one I'd kept buried in a box. I flipped through the pages, floral sketches, guest lists, a mock-up seating chart where our names once sat side by side. Then I tore out the first page, the one that said, Stefania and Andrew, our forever begins. I replaced it with a blank sheet and wrote instead, My forever began when I walked away. I smiled, closed the cover, and slipped it back into the box. Weeks turned into months. Andrew's email stayed in my inbox unread again and again, like a tombstone for a chapter already buried. Caleb and I grew closer, not like a movie romance, but something slower, steadier. He never tried to fix me, never asked for the story, just held space for it when I needed it to breathe. One night, as we watched the city lights flicker from his balcony, he said quietly, You ever think about him? Sometimes I admitted, but not with anger, more like remembering a book I outgrew. He smiled. That's how you know you've healed. I rested my head on his shoulder. The city pulsed below us, alive and indifferent proof that the world keeps moving, no matter who breaks your heart. Before bed, I glanced once more at my phone. Andrew's email still sat there unopened for months. I hovered over it for a moment, then hit delete. No hesitation, no second thoughts. Gone. And just like that, the ghost vanished. Sometimes people think healing is loud. Tears therapy, revenge, closure. But for me, it was quiet. It was learning to wake up and not wait for pain. It was choosing peace over nostalgia. Andrew once said his bachelor night was just a party. Maybe it was, but for me, it was the night my entire life began again. And that not his apology was my real freedom. If you've ever been told to just get over it, remember this. Healing quietly is the loudest revenge there is, because silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you finally have nothing left to prove.